Now, looking at today's market performance, could you kindly talk us through? We know that banks were the top trader today, like banks such as your Guarantee Bank, Access Bank, Diamond Bank, as well as Zenith Bank, and then UBA also came in part of the top 5.
Hello?
Hello, Egie, can you hear me?
Sorry, yeah, I can hear you now.
Yes, just talk us through the market performance today.
Well, in terms of performance today, I mean, the market hasn't really shown any significant sustained rally over the past 2 days. But one thing we can see is that there's not been as much enthusiastic buying of recent as of today. But again, we're down almost 14% year to date, and the market is still waiting for significant catalysts to move it upwards. We might not see much of that till Q3 results come out next month.
We've got inflation numbers coming out next week. What are your expectations on that front?
Well, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if inflation can remain below 10%. I think that's the number that the CBN would like to see. But again, I think we've had 2 good months of low inflation. If we can make it 3 in a row, then maybe we can say we're in a lower inflation environment than in the past. But it'll probably come in something in the 10% range when it comes out next week.
So looking at inflation below 10%, what is the likely impact on local or bond markets going into next week?
Well, I mean, there's really not much of a correlation between the inflation rates and the bond market rates here. I mean, the bond market rates are largely driven by liquidity. So right now, next week, the federal allocation gets released. That's going to impact where the market is. Right now, some pension funds and some banks have been buying up bonds of recent, which is why now you have the 5 and 7 years bonds yielding about 11.3, 11.4%. Going into next week's DMO auction, 70 billion on offer. It's probably going to be around 11.2 to 11.4 for the 5 and 7 year. Inflation numbers probably will not impact the outcome of that auction.
What type of demand are you seeing coming through for that auction next week? It's due to come out on next week on the 14th.
Well, I mean, typically you have people. I mean, I would expect that there'll be significant demand. I mean, all the auctions have all been sold out this year, and they've even had some supplementary issues for contractors and a few other people. So it'll definitely be sold out. The question becomes what rates you end up getting, and looking at what happened last auction. And what is likely to happen next auction is that rates remain around where they are now in the secondary market, around 11.4 for the 5 and 7 year.
We've got some news.
Better.
We've got some news flow coming out of AMCON, increasing its bond issuance program from 3 trillion naira to about 4.5 trillion naira. The move is to fund the recapitalization of rescued banks. What are your thoughts on the impact of this move on the local bond market going forward?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's when you look at the outstanding bonds issued by AMCON, I mean, right now 3 trillion, I mean, that's almost as much as a DMO. I think Debt Management Office has about 3.5 trillion or something thereabouts outstanding. So AMCON bonds will go above the bonds that the DMO have been issuing over the past few years. But the key to bear in mind is that most of those bonds are really not being traded. The bonds that were put into the open market was the 30 billion price discovery done a few months ago. Which was issued about 11.8 yield to maturity. So most of these trillions of naira bonds you're hearing about are largely untraded, and they're largely liquid, and they're really swapped for bad loans. Those bonds really don't hit the market we're talking about when we're talking about the FGN bond market or the OTC market for some state and corporate bonds.
Now changing gears, looking at the naira, we have seen a bit of strength coming through for the naira. The unit was trading at 154 naira 90 kobo against the dollar yesterday. That was firmer on Wednesday's close of 156 naira and 15 kobo. Largely following this was largely the dollar inflows from state-owned energy company NNPC. Well, today we're seeing further strength coming through from the naira once again. What is your outlook for the naira going forward into next week?
Well, I think the naira largely remains where it is. Of course, a lot of naira liquidity is going to come into the market next week when the federal allocations are released. So the question becomes how much of that liquidity goes into the foreign exchange market. But by and large, the naira has traded within a relatively narrow band over the past few weeks and should continue doing so for the bulk of the remainder of the quarter.
So local market, how do you think it will be looking like next week?
You mean in terms of the local equity market?
The NSE, yeah.
Again, there's not any significant news. I mean, the next big news points we're going to see are going to be into October, seeing the Q3 results for the big banks. But between now and next week, just trading sideways. No significant moves either way. Marginal movements either way.